Let's talk about Machu Picchu. It's truly an engineering marvel. My life is weird. I've taken the bus up there 24 times, and I'm looking forward to my 25th. I'll never get bored of that place. We've all heard that it's an engineering marvel. But have you ever wondered just what makes it so? In this video, I'll explain some of the details that I think are truly marvelous. First, a quick orientation on Machu Picchu. Not everyone knows what it is. It's an Inca palatial estate built high up in the Andes Mountains of Peru. The 9th Inca ruler, Pachacuti, had it built in the mid-1400s. We call it a city, but it's really a royal palace with enough rooms to house a massive staff of servants and an occasional entourage. Subsequent Inca rulers also used it right up until the Spanish invasion in the 1530s. Then it was evacuated and the people fled down into the Amazon. It was up in the Andes, but on the Amazon side, and at the beginning of a road down into the rainforest. Inca rulers lived in Cusco, but they had palaces all over the empire. Machu Picchu was possibly the closest one to Cusco, with a road leading directly between the two. The Inca could make it there in a single day. In fact, there's a modern foot race between Cusco and Machu Picchu along that ancient Inca road. The current record, set in 2019, is just 6 hours. So now, what do I think is amazing about Machu Picchu? Well, let's start with the big picture. They built it on top of a mountain. The Inca built all over the place, but usually in mountain valleys. That way they were adjacent to rivers and arable land. But not Machu Picchu. They built that one in the sky. And the first thing they had to do is flatten the mountaintop. Standing in the middle of Machu Picchu, you can see all the mountains all around it, and they all have pointy tops. The place where Machu Picchu was built was the same before Inca engineers sculpted it. They flattened a wide area to be the central plazas, but left outcroppings of bedrock on either side to be the foundations of the estate's architecture. That initial part couldn't have been done without sophisticated survey skills and a master plan. The stone excavated out to create those flat areas doubled as the quarry. Many of Machu Picchu's buildings are made of the same stone. Brilliantly efficient. So they built a little city up there. But what about food and water? They had all that master planned too. Machu Picchu is built along a ridge top running roughly north-south. At its north end rises a mountain named Machu Picchu. That means big brother in Quechua. At the south end is Huayna Picchu, little brother. That's the mountain you see in the background of all the Machu Picchu postcards. They could have picked anywhere in the mountain range, but they chose where they did because Machu Picchu Mountain has a spring spilling out well above the city. Inca engineers built an aqueduct from its mouth down into the city. It first watered a series of agricultural terraces on the north end, and then continued into the compound where we believe the king and his entourage resided. So the city had its own water and agricultural lands, and no doubt it was covered with llamas and alpacas. They served as porters, wool suppliers, and occasionally food. Water systems as elaborate as the one at Machu Picchu are rightfully called hydraulic engineering with no overreach at all. And the terrace irrigation system was only the beginning. As the stone water channel leaves the terraces, it goes down and underneath the wall of an area we believe to be the royal residential compound at the city's heart. It cuts across the top row of rooms to a staircase leading from the temples above to the plaza below. At that point, the water channel flanks the staircase, dribbling into multiple pools as it goes. Then, just above plaza level, it splits right and left. To one side, it fills a private pool that we call the Royal Bath, and to the other, it goes into an apartment unit that we think was the king's sleeping quarters. Inside that, in a little back room, the water runs across an open basin on the floor. We believe that was the king's toilet, complete with running water. And that's just the water management features we can see on the surface. No doubt there are whole plumbing systems underneath the city that we've yet to excavate. And one final thing to note about Machu Picchu's water systems: they're still functioning today. So there were some very practical engineering feats at Machu Picchu. But there are also ones that I consider more of Inca architects and engineers just showing off. Take a look at that Machu Picchu postcard again. In the background is Huayna Picchu Mountain. If you look closely at its peak, you can see there's architecture there. There are agricultural terraces and buildings up there. And it's so steep, it's like they're hanging in the sky. I've hiked up there a dozen times, so I've seen how steep they are for myself. In fact, I proposed to my wife on the very top peak of Huayna Picchu. It was romantic at the time, but I really didn't think it through. Now, every time I'm at Machu Picchu, I have to hike up there or it means I love her less. Last time was with our daughter, who was 14 years old at the time. For the record, I do still love her, and I will keep climbing. Even climbing up there is a dare. Could you imagine building its terraces? That wasn't practical. That was the Inca showing off their engineering skills and bravery. Another simple but important part of Machu Picchu's engineering is the shape of their rooms and buildings. Not just at Machu Picchu, but all over the Inca world, the Inca built in trapezoid shapes. Most cultures around the world build rectangular or circular structures, but I guess that was just too easy for the Inca. There are no right angles at Machu Picchu. Every wall of every building, in plan and profile, was trapezoid shaped. It's been explained as anti-seismic, which means earthquake resistant, and perhaps it is, but I think it's more than that. Again, I think it's engineering with aesthetics in mind. Not only are the buildings built to be trapezoids, but so are their windows and doors. Imagine you have a bunch of Legos. You can easily build a little rectangular house out of them. But what if you had to make a trapezoid house? How many bricks would you have to cut just so all the angles would properly fit together? It'd be a real difficult puzzle. That's how every single room in Machu Picchu was put together. When you think about it, that's pretty darn cool and complex. Now a word about our newest sponsor, Sheath. Sheath did the impossible. It made me rethink my underwear. I, like most people, made my underwear choice in my 20s and never looked back. There were briefs and boxers. I chose boxers for their loose fit. Boxer briefs came along, but they were too tight. But then Sheath made a version with a pouch in front, and it's a game changer. They hugged my legs, but not my crotch. Boxers bunch up when I pull my pants up, but Sheath boxer briefs don't. I also like how they look and feel. The material is ultra soft, and the band has this cool Greek temple pattern that I love. Sheath is a family-owned company, which I also love. I'm sick of soulless megacorps owning everything. Its creator is a military vet, and if there's one thing archaeologists and soldiers understand, it's the importance of form-fitting underwear and socks in the field. And yes, Sheath also makes great socks. I'm sold, and I think you will be too. Feel it to believe it. Go to sheath.com/Barnhart and use code Barnhart for 20% off. Sheath offers a first pair guarantee, so if it's not for you, you get your money back. But honestly, once you try these, there's no going back. That's sheath.com/Barnhart and use code Barnhart for 20% off. Sheath, the underwear of legends. Thanks to Sheath for sponsoring this video. One of my favorite parts of Machu Picchu is the main gate. An Inca road leads into the city through the Sun Gate up above and then continues down to the main gate leading into the walled sections of the Acropolis. It's a massive doorway, thick and made of big, almost megalithic stones. Like all Incan doorways, it's trapezoid-shaped. Above its huge lentil stone is a stone protruding from the wall with a hole carved right through the middle. It seems like a place that a rope would fit through. And we think that rope was somehow part of securing a wooden door to the entrance, but we're not sure how it worked. I love playing the game with people that I lead to Machu Picchu. We stand around that doorway and guess how it might have gone together. There's a niche just to the right on the inside of the doorway, big enough for a person to stand in. Personally, I think a person stood there and lowered the door like a drawbridge. But there are many other possibilities. To me, I just think it's neat that we're still pondering how the front door worked. That alone is a good example of why Machu Picchu is indeed an engineering marvel. One more part of the site that's an engineering feat is the one we call the condor. It's shaped like a bird with wings up, like it's descending towards the ground. It hangs in the air, defying gravity in a way that almost seems magical. It's built of stone blocks, but its base sits upon a sloping piece of bedrock. No mortar, and a steep angle, with tons of weight up above. It seems like it'll slip off any minute, but it stood there strong through centuries of earthquakes. On the floor below the wings is a stone carving that looks like a condor's beak. Together, they feel more like a sculpture than architecture, though they do flank a doorway going into a room. That brings me to my last point about Machu Picchu's engineering. Most of it is practical, like the aqueduct system, but other parts, like the condor, are also about aesthetics. There are multiple places in the ruins where you can see natural rock formations blending into man-made walls. To my eyes, it's an intentional Inca aesthetic, one that portrays Machu Picchu as emerging from Mother Earth, the Pachamama in Quechua. My favorite example is the wall leading from the southern end of the site along the path from the trailhead to Huayna Picchu. As you walk it back to the central ruins, it starts as a natural cluster of stones and then slowly transforms into more and more organized blocks until it becomes a fully elaborated Inca wall. Similar examples are all over the site, especially on buildings with exposed bedrock bases, like the Temple of the Sun. Again, I think it's an aesthetic that Machu Picchu's builders were going for, and its execution was indeed an engineering feat. Machu Picchu was more than a royal estate. It was a showcase of Inca skills and abilities. Beautiful and finely engineered architecture built in an impossible place. It likely took thousands of laborers to build Machu Picchu, but that might have actually been one of the reasons they did it. Pachacuti was the first Inca king to have millions of people in his empire, and everyone paid their taxes through labor, a system called the mita. Mita means to take a turn, and everyone in the Inca Empire had to take their turn providing labor in one fashion or another. When the empire reached millions of people, the system required jobs for millions of people to do. Logically, that compelled Inca leadership to come up with bigger and more ambitious building programs, long-term projects that would require millions of people working in shifts. Personally, I think Machu Picchu was one of those projects. But since that one was for the Sapa Inca himself, they pulled out all the stops and made it beautiful. However it was built, Machu Picchu definitely deserves the title of engineering marvel.